What's up, guys? ClimaxCombo back again with another top 10 video. I'm Checkers.
And I am Licious Kid.
And today we are going to be doing Musume, new set. Came out in Japan. Horse Girls. Woo! Woo! Yeah. It's pretty cool. Pretty exciting. Big set. Another one of those. 150, 40-ish cards.
Probably more with the trial deck.
Oh, God. That's right. There's two trial decks on top of the booster. Large set. A lot of stuff to go over.
And just like always, guys, these are our top 10 favorite cards in the set. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the strongest, but we try to mix up the list with strong cards and fun cards just to keep the list a little spicy. But before we start, couple things we want to mention. First of all, this set is all Musume, so there are no downsides with synergies here.
It is the only trait.
Yes, it is the only trait. They couldn't be creative, like making them like Gyaru or like student council.
Yeah, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nah, Bushi couldn't think too hard for this one. But also, if you guys don't know, there is a new mechanic in this set called Inheritance. We're gonna go over Inheritance right now, so we don't have to keep explaining the effect in the video. So Inheritance is an effect on some cards. The text says, when your other character is placed on stage from hand, if that character does not have a marker underneath it, you may choose up to one marker underneath this card and this card. You may place them underneath that card face up as a marker in any order. If you do, send the rest of the markers to the waiting room. So essentially, the cards with the Inheritance text are the cards that can go underneath new cards you play under as a marker. So even though a card you play doesn't have Inheritance, you can play the card with the Inheritance text underneath that card to give it the marker. So essentially you can give it to anything. And when you do the Inheritance, you choose that Inheritance card and one marker underneath it. So essentially every card, max amount of markers it can have underneath it via Inheritance is 2 markers underneath it. So just keep that in mind. Just to go over Inheritance very roughly, innately, it's a -1 in your hand because you are losing a character to give a new character a marker. So just keep that in mind. That's very important. And second effect, but what you get out of it is some cards get new effects when they have a marker underneath it. So that's like the reason to do it. But also keep in mind, you do increase your compression when you do Inheritance.
Now, with that being said, we'll go ahead and move into our top 10. For our number 10, we have this Daitaku Helios, 2/2, 7k base. During your opponent's turn, for each of your other Musume characters, this card gains 1k power. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have 4 or more other Musume characters, you may send the top card of your deck to your stock. And when this card direct attacks, you may choose one Musume character in your waiting room and send it to stock. Overall, this is a pretty neat level 2. 11k during your opponent's turn is pretty strong and difficult for your opponent to get over at level 2, because, I mean, where this card kind of shines is a standby build that can kind of bring them out early. You start to get a bit of extra stock whenever you can direct attack, which is great. If you do happen to play her from hand, it's not all that bad either, because you do get a blind stock with the full field. So she pays for herself, and if you get her out early, she can generate you more stock. So, and she's hard to reverse, so it's overall a really strong 2/2. Pretty neat.
A lot more fun and unique than the generic 2/2 10k encore. That's boring. We've seen it thousands of times. So I like this. It's more fun, and the payoff is pretty high.
There's ups and downs to it, but yeah, super cool.
It's fun. I like it a lot. I kind of want to try it out. Next up, for our number 9, we have a pair of cards, 3/2 Rice Shower and 2/1 Mihono Bourbon. We'll go over the 2 cards first. So Rice Shower, she's 3/2, 10k. When she's placed from hand to stage, she heals. Her second effect combos with the gate. When this card's battle opponent is reversed, if you have the gate, you deal 1 to your opponent. If she has a marker underneath her and you have 2 or more other characters, you can pay 2, discard a card. If you do, deal 3 damage to your opponent. Next up, 2/1 Mihono Bourbon, 7k. When your other, specifically that 3/2 Rice Shower, is placed on stage from hand, look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and put them back on in the same order. And during this turn, that 3/2 Rice Shower gets plus 1k, and the following effect of during this card's battle, your opponent cannot play backups from their hand. And she has Inheritance. However, when you use her Inheritance, you get a Blind Stock. So we'll go over the Rice Shower first. She's obviously a game ender. She gets markers with the Inheritance effect. And the payoff is pretty scary. You have her attack. So let's say that's at least 3 soul or 3 damage, then 1 damage with the burn. And then if you have a marker, you pay cost and then you deal additional 3. So it's 3/1/3 at the very least, which is pretty scary.
Those are good numbers.
Very good numbers, but it is pretty expensive. You have to kill something, and you got to pay 2 and then discard a card. Of course, you don't have to run Mihono Bourbon with this combo, but it's like borderline mandatory because the Mihono Bourbon gives the Rice Shower the extra 1k and the no backup effect for the turn. Keep in mind, you can have 1 Mihono Bourbon and play multiple Rice Showers, and they all get the 1k and the no backup effect. And the extra Inheritance is nice because it fuels the Rice Shower, and you get the Blind Stock, which you're going to need because this Rice Shower is expensive. Very expensive, yes. And the cost is expensive too. Pay 2, discard a card, and the gate innately is a -1 in hand size. So it's kind of a lot of work. I think in most games you're probably only going to get 2 Rice Shower game enders off without like the full effect off. So getting 3 is just way too much, but getting 2 off is still really scary. I just think the biggest downside of this card is her combo itself doesn't give her any power. Like, I just wish the combo gave like 2k. Because even with Mihono Bourbon and the combo, and the gate, she's only 12k.
Yeah.
And yes, your opponent can't back up, but like, it's still not that strong. You're going to need a level assist behind her or the 1k global. She's going to need a little extra help. So it's kind of a lot of work, but the payoff is there for sure.
Yeah. Only reason it's not higher, it's a lot of work and it can fail. Like, it's hard to pull off for sure.
At the very least, you will deal 1 damage to your opponent.
For pay 2 ditch.
No, you don't. If you have a marker, then you can pay 2 ditch to deal additional 3. She always burns 1 at the very least.
What?
But she still has to kill something. I wish it was like on attack, burn 1, and then if you kill something and you have a marker, pay 2, discard a card. Because like if you're up against a standby deck and they have those 1500 globals in front, how's Rice Shower supposed to kill them? She can't. Yeah. So I think it's a cool combo. And Rice Shower and Mihono Bourbon are lovers, and I love the 2 characters, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So that's why it's only number 9.
Numero 8, we have Sweet Tosho, 2/1, 5k power. All of your other Musume characters gain 1k power. She has Inheritance, but with the additional effect of when she does go underneath as a marker, you can send the top card of your deck to stock. And her last effect is a startup. You can rest her to look at the top 2 cards from the top of your deck and place them on top of your deck in any order. This card's here because it's one of the best level 2 options, or the level 2 option for Inheritance in like all the builds. You can just slot her in. The 1k global is a nice back row support, and the look at top 2 is cool. And once you're done with her, when you get a marker for her Inheritance, you get a stock back, so she's free. Just a really solid option. Really good.
Very powerful. It's good in all builds, but very strong in standby.
Standby. Pairs well with the opera that we will maybe mention later.
Oh, spoilers. But yeah, strong card. For our number 7, we have another pair of cards, 3/2 Vodka and 3/2 Vodka Scarlet. We'll go over Vodka first. First effect, during this card's battle, your opponent cannot play backups. When she's played from hand to stage, you heal. And her third effect is a change. At the beginning of your climax phase, you can return her to your hand. If you do, play the 3/2 Vodka Scarlet in her place. in stand, of course. And Vodka Scarlet, 3295 as well. 3 effects, just like Vodka. When she battles, your opponent cannot play events. When she's played from hand to stage, you burn 1. And she has the same effect. At the beginning of your climax phase, you can bounce her back to your hand. If you do, play the Vodka in her place. So these 2 are pretty neat, I think specifically in standby. Doing this whole thing at level 3 is just way too slow. You're not going to get enough value out of them. But if you can get the Vodka Vodka Scarlet change going starting at level 2, I think it's pretty powerful. You know, they can't back up or event against it. Just depends on the matchup. I think at level 2, definitely the backup effect will be better. So you'll probably want to play Vodka. And yeah, just it's free. And you get to heal, burn, heal, burn, heal, burn. Seems fun. And if you can keep them alive, it seems quite powerful as well. And for our number 6, we have the 00 Mayonno Top Gun. Has a climax combo with the gate. When you play the gate, if you have 6 or less stock, if you have another character, look at top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 character amongst them, show the opponent, add it to your hand, send the rest to waiting room, and she has inheritance. So this card might not be very exciting as a standalone card, but in the whole Musume build, we think this card is very strong. Just a very good combo. And she has inheritance, which is very important. The cards that have inheritance text must innately be strong cards on their own for them to fit in your deck, in our opinion. And Mayonno fills that role. Her only downside is you need to have 6 or less stock when you use this combo. But honestly, if you have 6 or more stock, Mayonno can probably be gone. Like, you know. So she's good all game. And she fills your inheritance, mills your deck, pluses you in hand size. That's not too rough.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Had a collab with Top Gun Maverick. You know, what more do you need?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For our number 5, we have a pair of cards that are... They pretty much do the same thing in our eyes. It's just 2 1-0s. The first one will be Mejiro Dober, 3k base. During your turn, if you have another Musume character, this card gains 3k power. During the turn, this card is placed on stage from hand. If this card has a marker underneath it, choose 1 Musume character in your waiting room and add it to your hand. And lastly, it has inheritance.
And then a card that's very similar is this one Mejiro Bright, 103k. When she's placed on hand to stage, if you have 2 or more Musume characters, you can discard 2 cards to draw 2 cards, and she has inheritance as well. So both of these cards pretty much do the same thing, just good 1-0 inheritance card that have great utility.
Yep. Down upsides to both 6k attacker that can salvage you something, or just great hand filter. It's like these are the best level 1 inheritance cards pretty much.
Yeah. Honestly, you could run both of them in a single build because they're both really good 1-0 inheritance. But I think the one upside to Bright is you're running a build with a lot of events. The Bright is better because you can draw some events.
Next up for number 4, we have Satano Diamond, blue RR, 2k base. When this card is placed on stage from hand, if you have another Musume character, this card gains 1500 power. And the following effect of when this card attacks, look at the top card of your deck and place it on top or bottom of your deck. And the last effect is Clean Cut. When this card's battle opponent's reversed, choose 1 of your other Musume characters, rest it, and move it to an empty slot in your back row. This card is really strong. I mean, 3/5 Clean Cut is already sounding pretty dope to anyone, but and the top check is nice. You know, just a little bonus. But for this set, Satano Diamond kind of adds a lot of power to inheritance. She lets you keep around any zeros with inheritance to make use later. So especially stronger in this set.
And a lot of the good blue 1-0s, like the last 2 we mentioned, and a couple other ones, are very weak on offense, so she can save them for future inheritance shenanigans.
Yep.
Next up, For our number 3 card, we got the 00 Sakura Chiono. Just a rare, but one of the most expensive cards in the set, and for a good reason. She has 3 effects. She's hexproof. Second effect, she has inheritance. And her last effect is a brainstorm. Mill 4 brainstorm, and you salvage for each one you hit. So very simple, but very powerful. It's a brainstorm, so you're going to be running it no matter what. But the fact that she has inheritance is what makes her so powerful. For these inheritance cards to be good, they need to have strong effects with inheritance text. You can't run a mediocre card with inheritance because your deck's just not going to flow well. So she has a strong effects with inheritance, so she's very strong. Her price alone kind of says it as a rare. But also, that hexproof effect is very juicy because when you put markers underneath her for inheritance, just for extra compression, they can't really bounce it or do any shenanigans on her because she has hexproof. But most importantly with the hexproof is you can actually use her to help game end at level 3 because she's hexproof. So they can't do like backups or anti-damage backups, like money backups against her because she's hexproof. So that's actually pretty important. So don't forget she's hexproof, guys. And kill your opponents with her.
That's so sick.
Yep, they try to back up, be like, bro, she has hexproof. What are you doing? And then, got him.
God.
GG.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Sakura Chiono is sick. For our number 2 card, we have this 3/2 8500 power TM Opera. She has a lot of effects. Her first effect is you have 4 more characters. She loses 1 level in your hand. Second effect, if there's a marker underneath her, she gets plus 2500 power. Third effect, she has Bodyguard. Last effect, when this card's battle opponent is reversed, you can pay 1, discard a card. If you do, burn 1 to your opponent. This card, I really like. It comes out very easily with inheritance. She's 11k base, has Bodyguard, which is just so sick. And her last effect burns them, and you can do it on your opponent's turn, too. So, if your opponent doesn't have an answer for Opera at level 2, they're kind of screwed. Protect her with a couple backups, a couple strong assists, and you're big chillin'. If your opponent can't answer her, you technically don't have to refill your own board because there's nothing to replay over. And so start using that extra stock and hand size that you would have used to play cards instead to burn your opponent. And just get them to level 3 much faster than they anticipated with a lot less resources that they might have thought they would have. So I think it's very strong in the right situations.
I hate this card.
I love this card.
Bodyguard. Hate the mechanic.
Bodyguard was such trash back then, but
this thing's
some bodyguards
so
are pretty oppressive.
Yeah.
And
the bodyguards recently are truly bodyguards.
Bushi's doing a pretty good job with the new bodyguards. But this is definitely one of the better ones. And
this can be so nasty.
Even without the marker, she can still burn, so you can still technically use a late game. Without a bodyguard and just start, burning them. So keep that in mind. On to some honorable mentions. First of all, we got the 00's 2K Sakura Bakushin. This card's pretty hilarious. Combos with the +2 soul. So when the +2 soul is placed on the climax zone, if you have 2 or more characters and another character in your front row, perform the following effect once. Search your deck for an Musume character, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck, then choose one of your characters in the front row. It loses 1 soul. And secondly, it has inheritance as well. So I like this card mainly because it combos with +2 soul. I think +2 soul is sick, but it's hard to balance. But I think it's a cool one. It pluses you, but the only downside is that you give a character -1 soul. Keep in mind, Sakura Bakushin's combo works if she's in the front row or the back row. So you can always plus with it, and when you're tired of Sakura Bakushin, you can just inheritance her. So it's kind of in the same mindset as Mayonno, except I think the Mayonno, of course, has the upside that she combos with Gate. And like we said, inheritance innately is a -1 in hand size, so the Mayonno comboing with the Gate and having the Gate triggers, I think, is better for the deck's health as a whole. But I think the Sakura Bakushin does have potential and can be quite powerful.
For our second honorable mention, it is the level 3 Naita Top Road from the second Musume TD. It is 10k base, When this card is placed on stage, you can send the top card of your clock to waiting room. And the second effect is ClimaxCombo with the pants. When the pants is played, if this card has a marker underneath it, and if you have 4 more other Musume characters during this turn, this card gains the following effect of when this effect activates up to once per turn. When this card's dealt damage is cancelled, you may deal 3 damage to your opponent. If that damage is cancelled, you may deal 1 damage to your opponent. And overall, we wanted to mention this one because it is a really, really solid game ender for the set. For any builds using Inheritance, this is a good option. It's costless, so it's very easy to play 3 of them. And the finish is pretty decent. It's some guaranteed damage, pretty much. I mean, you're probably going to hit the 1, if anything. So you only need 2 more 3 damage instances to hit to kill someone at 3-0. So it's pretty good. Yeah, overall, it's just really solid.
You play 3 of these, your opponent's 3-0. If one of the 3 damage hits, it's very scary. Because the other 2 might do 1 damage, so it's pretty strong. So for our last honorable mention, we got this 2-0 event with the President. This card's kind of weird, but when you play it, if you have 2 or less in memory, send this card to memory. And it has a couple recollection effects. The first recollection is send this card from memory to waiting room. Choose 1 character in your waiting room, add it to your hand. The second recollection is you can send 2 of these in your memory to waiting room. If you do, deal 2 damage to your opponent. And the last one is you can send 3 of these in memory to waiting room. If you do, deal 3 damage to your opponent. And during this turn, choose 1 of your characters and get plus 3k power for the turn. I think the most value in this card is the 2 recollection. Having that 2, the burn 2 during your main phase, I think can be quite powerful. Kind of like an investment. You play 2, it does absolutely nothing. But then once you hit 3, or once you feel like you want to end your opponents, play the event. And then you can really judge how your turn's going to go for that turn. So I think it can be quite powerful. And it's pretty fun. And I think pretty balanced.
Dang. And lastly, for our number 1, we have Mayonno McQueen, 1-0, double R, 4k power. During your turn, if you have another Musume character, this card gains 3k power. And ClimaxCombo with the pants. When this attacks, if you have 2 or more other Musume characters, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 Musume character among them, reveal it to your opponent, add it to your hand. And if this card has a marker underneath it, choose 1 level 2 or higher character in your waiting room and add it to your hand. This is our number 1 because we think is kind of the... Bushiroada's done a good job with making Inheritance actually valuable with this card. Without it, it's a normal 1-0 combo. You know, it's 7k on attack, which is nice, and you get to mill and plus, or mill and add a card to your hand. So that's pretty cool. But with the added marker, you get to grab any level 2 or higher character in your waiting room and add it to your hand. That's an amazing effect to start setting up your hand for level 2 and kind of do whatever you want. Makes your deck a little more versatile. And it's a good bonus to Inheritance, I would say. Very cool. And I had McQueen in the game, so she's cute.
McQueen's definitely a fan favorite. Everyone loves McQueen, right? So very glad to see McQueen got the justice she deserves. But just like Checker said, it's a very powerful card. I like it a lot. It's a good way to show that, you know, this is like what Inheritance should be. Decent on its own, but powerful with Inheritance. And that is it for our top 10 cards for Uma Musume. Overall, we think as a standalone card, each card alone may not seem very powerful. Like, it's not kind of crazy like Chainsaw Man. But when the deck comes together and you see it in action and you play it with it, it actually works pretty well. And it's pretty fun. It's the Inheritance mechanic's unique and fun enough and pretty balanced. It's not like Accelerate when it first came out, where it was like borderline unplayable. Or like Alarm, where you see it once every like couple sets, just like in one card. It's not really like the defined mechanic in that set.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Heaven Burns Red, they just recently tried to make Accelerate more playable. But I mean, Heaven Burns Red looks fun, but it's not like making any waves, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. Bushiroad's trying something new, and it's actually pretty decent so far.
I think it's a nice mechanic.
It's a nice mechanic. It's a nice mechanic. It's like, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's fun, and that's what's most important.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be strong. It just has to be fun and satisfying to do, which I think Inheritance does well. So overall, Uma Musume is a cool set. Really excited to see where the set goes. As of right now, do we really think it's going to be making waves in the meta? Checkers?
I don't think so.
There's a lot of builds right now just because the set's so new and it's so
Yeah.
big. So it's kind of hard to see what's really going to stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally think that it can win a couple tournaments. It has the power and the cards to do so.
Yeah.
But will we see it consistently one after another? I'm not too sure. I don't think so.
Compared to the last meta before this ban list, a lot more decks can thrive and win now.
That is true.
Before this was like terrible.
This new meta is still pretty new, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see. But I think Uma Musume can give people a run for their money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can win, but not the strongest, which is fine.
Thick.
Yeah. Did I say thick?
No, I said thick.
Oh, okay. But
For no reason.
yeah, that's our top 10 for this one, guys. If you guys like this video, like, comment, subscribe as always.
Until next time.
Peace.